Peace and blessings to each of you on this Maundy, Thursday of Holy Week 2020. Chaplain Leslie here, and I bring to you a service that will commemorate the importance of this day, which is a big part of our Christian walk of faith. There are several items that you'll need to be part of this service because it will be a participatory kind of service. And so I invite you to feel free to be creative in this endeavor. First, you're going to need something to put some water in. And this morning I have my teacup with me, and it has water in it. Then you will also need something to pour the water into. I have a bowl here with me this morning, and so I'll be using that. You will also need communion items, whether those be some kind of a juice. Maybe you have grape juice, maybe orange juice or something else, or wine perhaps. And then also you will need something to represent bread. Maybe you have a wafer, maybe a cracker or wheat thin, whatever you have available. And then finally, as you can see behind me, I have some greenery, a pretty bouquet of flowers here in the office with me. And so that is going to be part of what I will imagine the Garden of Gethsemane to be. And so rather than wash feet, we'll be washing hands as part of this service today. And so now that we have all of those items in place, I invite you to come with me as each of us, Christians in spirit, meet the disciples and meet Jesus as they come together for a final meal. Imagine, if you will, on this evening, as is the tradition in their faith, they join spiritually with their biblical ancestors to celebrate this first day of the feast of the Passover. From the days of Moses, when the Israelites were guided from slavery in Egypt to the promised land, these instructions come and are still part of our biblical ancestry as well, and they come straight from the Lord. And hear these words. This is a day you are to commemorate. For the generations to come, you shall celebrate it as a festival to the Lord, a lasting ordinance. For 7 days you are to eat bread made without yeast. On the first day remove the yeast from your houses, for whoever eats anything with yeast in it from the first day through the 7th, they must be cut off from Israel. On the first day hold a sacred assembly, and another one on the 7th day. Do no work on these days except to prepare food for everyone to eat. That is all you may do. Celebrate the festival of unleavened bread, because it was on this very day that I brought your divisions out of Egypt. Celebrate this day as a lasting ordinance for the generations to come. And those scriptures are from Exodus chapter 12, verses 14 through 17. Carrying out these instructions and this ordinance through the generations, we find Jesus now has come once again to lift up this celebration with his closest friends, the disciples. But tonight, as we know, things are going to be quite different. Christ will become like a humble servant, and they will have their feet washed by him. They will then come together around the table one final time to join in a meal that will be of the bread and the cup, two very common elements that will take on special significance, and they will then join Christ in the Garden of Gethsemane to pray. I invite you, as you are seated, to get comfortable. Have your towel and your cup with water ready, a communion wafer or cracker and juice nearby, as well as the greenery, whatever you choose, or your garden, if you can look outside and see a garden. I invite you now, take a moment and notice your hands. They have provided you with years of service and years of service to God. Perhaps they are arthritic, perhaps they are painful today. You may have wrinkles on them, there might be spots, but they are important parts of the body, crucial parts of the body. Think for a moment about Jesus and his willingness to wash his disciples' feet. They're smelly, dusty, dirty feet. No one, and I mean no one, but a servant, would ever stoop so low as to wash the feet of another. Yet that exactly is what Jesus did, because that is who he was, a servant, a true servant of God. Hear what Jesus says in John 13:12. Do you know what I have done to you? He asked them. You call me teacher and Lord, and rightly so, for that is what I am. Now that I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you should also wash one another's feet. I have set you an example that you should do as I have done for you. Very truly I tell you, no servant is greater than his master, nor is a messenger greater than the one who sent him. Now that you know these things, you will be blessed to do them. And so I invite you now to join with me as we wash our hands. Again, I have my bowl, and I have my towel, and my mug with the water. And so we pour one at a time. And then as your hands are damp, I invite you to dry them on your towel. And then set that aside. We come now to the table. This is where Jesus then invited his disciples to come to the table and join him to eat. On this night, as they celebrate the feast of the Passover, it will indeed be the final celebration for Christ with his disciples. For those in many Christian faiths, this was the start of the Lord's Supper. Some may call it communion. In my faith tradition, we call it communion. In other faith traditions, it's referred to as the Eucharist. Whatever the name, the cup and the bread become symbols of remembrance of Christ. And it is in the act of sharing this meal together that the bonds of Christian fellowship are strengthened, one to the other, as well as one to God. And so I invite you to have the bread and the cup with you. And I have my bread and wafer here with me. And then I also have, for this day, a chalice. And so the chalice and the bread. And then I have my juice with me as well, in a small cup. And I will share with us, for us, the words from Matthew that Jesus shared with the disciples. While they were eating, Jesus took bread, and when he had given thanks, he broke it and gave it to his disciples, saying, "Take and eat. This is my body. I invite you to partake." Then he took a cup, and when he had given thanks, he gave it to them, saying, "Drink from it, all of you. I invite you to drink." This is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins. I tell you, I will not drink of the fruit of the vine from now on until that day, when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom. I ask that you now bow your heads with me We're going to take a moment of prayer time, and then we'll close this portion at the table by sharing the Lord's Prayer out loud together. So bow your heads if you can with me in prayer. Lord, on this most holy of nights, on this Maundy, Thursday, we remember you. We remember the disciples. We remember why you came into the world, why you are God's Son, why you are both human and divine as well. You are God incarnate. What an amazing, amazing thought that is, and that we claim that as the heart of our faith. Lord, I thank you for this time of communion, of being together with one another in spirit, though we are apart physically. Be with us as we make our way through this holy week. Guide us, protect us, keep us safe, keep us well, I pray. Keep all of our loved ones well and safe, I pray. And Lord, as we have had a blessing for the bread and the cup, we so appreciate the spiritual nourishment that these items provide to us. And as we remember, as we reflect on the very first time that Jesus shared this with his disciples, we carry that tradition. We carry this sacrament with us and have done so through all generations, and will continue to carry this as we have taught other generations. Lord, may we now pray the prayer that you taught us praying. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Amen indeed. After supper, Jesus took his disciples to a place called Gethsemane. And he said to them, "Sit here while I go over there and pray." With him he took Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee along with him. And he began to be sorrowful and troubled. Then he said to them, "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch with me." Going a little farther, he fell on his face to the ground and prayed, "My Father, if it is possible, may this cup be taken from me. Yet not as I will, but as you will." Then he turned his face to his disciples and found them sleeping. "Couldn't you men keep watch with me for 1 hour?" he asked Peter. "Watch and pray so that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak." He went away a second time and prayed, "My Father, if it is not possible for this cup to be taken away unless I drink it, may your will be done." When he came back, he again found them sleeping because their eyes were heavy. So he left them and went away once more and prayed the 3rd time, saying the same thing. Then he returned to the disciples and said to them, "Are you still sleeping and resting? Look, the hour has come, and the Son of Man is delivered into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us go. Here comes my betrayer." Powerful words, powerful images that we have before us on this Maundy, Thursday. That concludes this service, and I so appreciate each and every one of you joining me for these videos that I have shared in these last weeks and will continue to share. I pray that this service has been as meaningful for you as it has for me. I invite you to join me again on Easter Sunday, virtually. We will do it virtually, that is, as we celebrate the risen Lord. Until then, I pray peace and blessings for each one of you. And thank you again for joining me for this service.